Hey everyone, I hold in my hand the new SLK Halo, the one that's played by this lady behind me. You know her, Paris Todd. She signed with Selkirk. This is the paddle she plays. You want to hear about it? Stay tuned. I got a chance to hit these paddles last night. I'll show you some of the games I'm playing. And let me just give you my first impression. So I really like the shape of this paddle. It reminds me of a certain paddle that has a little bit more low, rounded shape on the top. Yola, the one that is really popular right now. So it's similar to that shape. It's not quite as many bevels. It's not quite the same shape, but it reminds me of that. When I first grabbed this paddle, I really like the leather handles. These actually, I'm not much of a fan of these types of grips. But I found that this one, playing with it, even when my hand was getting sweaty, it soaked it in pretty well. So it wasn't something that I was like, I kind of didn't mind it. I really don't like leather grips, but this one felt very comfortable in the hand. So I've got a 16 and a 13. And the thing is, I would love to show you the back side of these paddles. On the back side of these paddles is the next logo for these and the next iteration of the logo. And nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. Selkirk would get very mad at me. But the logos on the back look super sweet. I can't wait for you to see those. But the front ones, I think they're cool too. The 16 millimeter, one of the things about the 16 millimeter is any 16 millimeter paddle. Let's look at this compared to the famous carbon. You can see that the shapes are very similar. The size is very similar. The paddles are the same thickness and the grips are very much the same. But you can see this one has a little bit more rounded shape at the top, a little bit less flat at the top. And let's compare it to the Gruvin 16/8. So you can see these side by side. Very similar in shape. You know, when you played these types of paddles, they're not that much different as far as size goes because they all have the same parameters that they have to follow, the 24-inch circumference total of the paddle. Let's get into this a little bit. The 16 millimeter, so just like the other ones that I just showed you, 16 millimeter is a little bit blocky handle. So the handle's a little bit thick, so those with small hands or women, you might not like the 16 millimeter version. You might want to go with the 13 millimeter version. Now, the difference between the 13 and the 16, the 13 has a smaller sweet spot, so it is a little bit more where you're going to have to put some lead tape on it and tape it out here on the perimeters to widen the sweet spot a little bit. But first impressions with these paddles, I didn't miss a whole lot of shots with them. They were very consistent paddles. What I noticed more than anything about this paddle's got some pop. I tell you what, this paddle's got some power. Out of the other 16 millimeter paddles that I just showed you, this one has the most power. And I think it's a great paddle for those that have good ground strokes, love to hit with spin and top spin, love to use the paddle to do some work for you. That's really what this paddle stood out on me. And I wasn't having to work hard at it. If you really want a power paddle, this is the paddle for you. Now this comes in at about 813 is the way it comes in stock, and I always play these paddles stock because I want to see the way they feel. I would probably add just a little bit of lead tape to this, probably in the handle area. So I'd get it up to about 825 is the way I like to play my paddles. I would say for all of the shots I hit, so my resets were good, the dinks were good. I didn't feel uncomfortable with the dinking. It wasn't too poppy in the kitchen. So when it had power, when it really stood out is anything I was putting any pace on. This thing really stood out on that and really had a lot of good leverage. And the spin, I could generate a ton of spin with this paddle. If you want to see the specs, I'm just going to put the specs up here on the screen behind me so you can read them, and that way you can just look at the size and look at the weight and look at what they say about it. I'm going to put some of the other technical specs in it because it's just exhaustive to go through all these specs. You guys can read it, you know what you were looking for, and you know what you like. The best thing about this paddle is the price. 140 bucks, guys. 140 bucks for this paddle. It is less expensive than the CRBN. It's less expensive than the Gruvin. It is a great paddle, especially for the price. This is a phenomenal paddle. You can click in the description below and you will see the link to get this paddle for you guys. There's a big Black Friday sale coming up. Selkirk, it's a good job. And let's watch Miss Paris Todd win some championships with this one. Well, that's what I have for the SLK, guys. I tell you what, if this is not the paddle for you, you can see our other reviews here and pick out a different paddle.